The film begins with a dark backstory. On June 13, 1980, the counselors at Crystal Lake Camp fall victim to a bloody massacre orchestrated by the deranged Mrs. Urchies. Cornering young Eris Hardley, she was ready to kill the girl, but in desperation, Eris managed to decapitate her attacker. All this was witnessed by little Jason Birch, her son. This scene was forever etched in his memory. Almost 30 years pass. A group of friends, White, Richie, Mike, Whitney, and Amanda, arrive at the ill-fated lake to relax in nature. In the evening, sitting by the fire, White tells a scary legend about the tragedy of the camp, but his friends just laugh at him. Soon the group splits up. Whitney goes for a walk with Mike, and Amanda decides to seduce Richie. White, noticing this, leaves them alone and goes into the woods. Unfortunately, there he meets a maniac who kills him with particular cruelty. Meanwhile, Mike and Whitney stumble upon an old abandoned house. There, Whitney finds a locket with a photo of Mrs. Urchies and Jason's sleeping place. At this time, Richie and Amanda are enjoying each other's company, but a sudden noise outside interrupts them. The girl decides that it is Waite playing a joke and peeping, and sends Richie to check. After her boyfriend leaves, Jason's shadow appears with a machete. He grabs Amanda, stuffs her into a sleeping bag, and hangs her over the fire. Hearing her screams, Richie rushes to her aid, but falls into a trap set by the maniac. Soon Mike and Whitney return to the scene, but Jason deals with them too. None of the group survives. 6 weeks later, history repeats itself. A new group of young people, Trent with his girlfriend Jenna, as well as their friends Bree, Chewie, Chelsea, Nolan, and Lawrence, arrive to spend the weekend at their parents' summer house on the shores of Crystal Lake. On the way, they stop at a gas station where they meet Clay, a young man looking for his sister Whitney, who disappeared there a few weeks ago. He even tries to convince the cashier to post missing person flyers, but is flatly refused. A conflict immediately arises between Clay and Trent. Two completely different personalities clash head-on. One is stubbornly looking for his sister, while the other just wants to have fun with his friends without worrying about anything. After the quarrel, they part ways. Trent returns home, while Clay continues his search. On the way, he is stopped by the sheriff. Clay desperately demands to continue the search for Whitney, but the sheriff coldly replies that they have already searched everywhere and found no traces. In his opinion, the girl could have simply left with her boyfriend. Clay objects. Their mother died of cancer, and Whitney would never have abandoned her brother at such a time. The sheriff just shrugs his shoulders. She's not here. Look somewhere else. Meanwhile, the group of friends has already settled in the house by the lake. Jokes, laughter, bustle, everything seems carefree. At this time, Clay finds himself in a strange house. There he is met by a gloomy hostess, who after a short conversation utters an ominous phrase. She's not missing. She's already dead. And as if ending the conversation, she slams the door shut. The fun is in full swing at the lake house. Chelsea suggests that everyone go swimming, but Nolan slyly asks the group to decline, wanting to be alone with the girl. In the end, the two of them go out on the lake in Trent's boat. Clay, driving around the neighborhood, accidentally ends up at Trent's house. Jenna invites him in and listens to the story of Whitney's disappearance, promising to help. This further irritates Trent, who clearly sees Clay as a rival. At the same time, we are shown a worker at the sawmill. Clay had driven past it earlier. It is there that Jason finds his famous hockey mask. From this moment on, his image becomes complete. Meanwhile, tragedy unfolds on the lake. Nolan is driving the boat and Chelsea is wakeboarding, holding onto a rope. She loses her balance and falls into the water. At that moment, Jason releases an arrow that pierces Nolan. The uncontrolled boat runs over Chelsea. The girl tries to run away, but Jason is already standing on the shore with a machete. Trying to hide under the bridge, she receives a fatal blow to the head. Clay and Jenna continue their search and come to an abandoned camp. There they witness a horrific scene. Jason is hiding the bodies of his victims. Clay panics and drops his backpack, and the maniac, noticing this, takes it to his lair. Beneath the camp is a whole system of underground passages where he hides the corpses. Whitney is also being held there. It turns out that the girl is still alive. Jason mistakes her for his mother because she is wearing a medallion with a photo of Mrs. Urchis around her neck. Whitney manages to find missing person posters and a broken GPS navigator in her brother's backpack. She takes apart the device and uses the wires to free herself from her bonds. Meanwhile, the party at the lake house is in full swing. The young people are drinking and having fun. Chewie, who has already had quite a bit to drink, accidentally breaks a chair and goes to the shed for tools. At that moment, Clay and Jenna burst into the house. Terrified, they tell their friends that they saw a maniac carrying corpses. But the group, as before, does not believe them, deciding that these are just scary stories. Clay tries to call the police, while Jenna rushes upstairs, where Trent and Bree are kissing. She bursts into the room and begs them to believe her. There is a maniac in the house. But the couple doesn't even pay attention to her words. At that moment, the first blow is heard in the shed. Jason cold-bloodedly kills Chewie. In the living room, another argument breaks out between Clay and Trent. Jenna tries in vain to calm them down, while Lawrence decides to check on his friend. He goes out into the yard and comes face to face with Jason. He manages to fight back and even wound the monster, but the maniac puts an end to his escape with a precise throw of an axe. The house is filled with screams. The friends hear Lawrence's desperate cry, and Bree becomes hysterical. Trent silently goes upstairs to get his gun, but before he can do anything, Jason is already inside. He kills the girl on the spot, and a patrol car pulls up to the house. The sheriff barely has time to step outside before he becomes Burchess's next victim. Trent runs out into the street in a panic. Jason throws Bree's body off the roof directly onto the car, causing him to lose his last shred of composure. Clay and Jenna run together, while Trent tries to escape in the other direction, which turns out to be a fatal mistake. The maniac catches up with him and kills him without mercy. Clay and Jenna find an abandoned camp, where they finally discover Whitney chained to the wall. Clay hugs his sister and frees her, but their joy is short-lived. Jason reappears and kills Jenna. Now only the brother and sister remain. They hide in an old barn. The final battle begins. Jason almost pushes Clay into a working wood chipper, but Whitney decides to take a desperate step. Pretending to be his mother, she distracts the maniac. At that moment, Clay throws a chain around the killer's neck and throws the other end, along with Whitney, into the shredder. The machine's teeth pull the chain harder and harder, pressing Jason down. In a last-ditch attempt to escape, the maniac rips the medallion from Whitney's neck. But the girl grabs his machete and stabs him right in the chest. Jason falls, and the audience is shown the ruins of the camp and Trent's burned-down house. The ending remains open. Clay and Whitney throw the maniac's body into the lake, and his famous hockey mask slowly sinks to the bottom. It seems that everything is over, but in the last frame, Jason breaks through the bridge, emerges from the water, and grabs Whitney.